thing I'll talk about a little bit, second last thing is federal infrastructure. I mean, that's another area where I think there's great collaboration opportunities with my legislative colleagues here at the federal government, our local community partners out there. 2015, Congress passed the FAST Act, which was the first long-term federal transportation bill in like 10, 15 years. That is coming due here for reauthorization. We're looking to partner. Our state legislators have stepped up big time. You as citizens have stepped up big time for your own transportation problems. It's not just Portland. 101 is a chronic transportation problem. And how we deal with that, Highway 20, great success. A little misstep to start with, but great success in terms of getting from here over to the valley. That's the type of stuff I would like to replicate, and I think your legislation would like to replicate. Good news in Washington, D.C., there's bipartisan support for getting something done. Bad news is we aren't agreeing on how to pay for it yet. And that's a chronic problem. Again, my hat's off to every single person in this room that stepped up to be part of that solution. I'm hopeful we can get that across the finish line before this Congress ends or the campaign season gets into full swing. But another area of infrastructure that's critical to the coast is the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. I mean, that's a big deal. That's a pot of money that actually folks pay into for the privilege of using our ports. The money grows every year, and we use only a portion of it for port maintenance. The federal government siphons off a bunch of it for other programs that they want to fund. Congressman DeFazio, myself, the rest of your Oregon delegation have pushed really hard to allocate more money, hopefully all the money, to take care of the small ports that we have here on the Oregon coast. I don't care if it's jetties in Garibaldi, the gas tanks are above ground in the Depot Bay. I mean, there's a lot of need here on the Oregon coast for money that Congress is supposed to be allocating through statutory authority for these harbors and ports. There's a lot of opportunity for us, I think, to collaborate. We've had an opportunity working with some of your delegation, some of the folks in the Valley that don't understand some of the problems you guys have with some of the water sources and dams that are here. We collaborate very closely with our legislative partners to try and make things actually happen. So the last thing I would like to comment on is that urban-rural divide that's out there. I see that on the national level all the time, and there's a lack of understanding by our folks in the cities about the plight that we have out here. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a petting zoo. I live in rural. I've got a farm, and I feel like I live in a petting zoo where the city people will come out and spend time and money in my backyard and look, isn't that nice, isn't that wonderful? Look, Kurt, he's running around with his animals and his hops, and oh, that's really good. Then they go back into the city and they pass all this legislation that makes it almost impossible for me to do what they seem to like to see and be a part of. And that's a big problem. That's why this group of bipartisan individuals can make a huge difference in your state legislature. And I try, with my colleagues, the Problem Solvers Caucus, to bridge these divides. Bridge these divides where there's an opportunity for folks to recognize that we have to drive a little further in rural Oregon. That should be taken into account. We also should be able to earn a living in rural Oregon. Agriculture in the valley should be a viable enterprise that's respected and supported like it was back when Senate Bill 100 passed and we made sure farmers could afford to have farmland. Same thing in the forestry area. We should be able to make sure that we can work in the woods. That these communities, they're not going to have a Google set up, down in Reedsport. That's just not going to happen. But what we can do is make sure there's an industry there that can protect our forests from these horrible wildfires. We're closing down Ashland because of wildfires. I mean, come on, that's just terribly wrong. We have got to make sure that our folks in our urban areas understand that we can be part of the solution to your climate change and carbon pollution problems by just working thoughtfully in our forests. This is not the 1970s, it's not the 1980s. I think timber industry has learned we overcut. We terribly overcut. But now it's time to put people back to work. The same thing in our fishing communities. The fishing community It's been devastated in California, put out of business virtually. We have a viable, our fleet here, Oregon coast, is one of the most prolific and data managed groups in the United States of America. I talk to my colleagues back east, and there's all this infighting going on the East Coast about fishery policies. Our men and women here have sacrificed a lot. The whole catch share program basically shut down the rockfish industry for quite some time. Now the stocks are rebounding thanks to the help of the fishermen and the communities they represent, to getting good information about where and what we should be doing. And that's the type of collaboration that gets this country moving forward, and has made a huge difference. There's a great opportunity now for these fisheries to be sustainable and support these communities, and frankly feed not just America, but the rest of the world. So I'm looking forward to the discussion today. We've got some really smart people here that care deeply and passionately about the community. You guys are very, very lucky to have a group of problem solvers here that want to actually get stuff done, represent the rural parts of our great state, the Oregon coast in particular. So with that, I think we're going to run into some questions, if that's okay, and give our colleagues a chance to respond.